War is a part of life in the 16th century. When one's king calls, you go. Henry VIII has become obsessed with France. He wants it. Having tried and failed once before, he is determined to make France his own. In 1522, his old ally, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, has promised that he would stay true to his word and back up his ally in battle. But when Henry VIII invaded France, Charles V's armies were nowhere to be found. Let down by his wife's uncle Charles, Henry takes it out on his wife Catherine. But he is still ready to give taking France another go. 3 years later, in 1525, he attempts to raise money for his war. But riots break out across the war-weary England, and the invasion has to be called off. Henry is left humiliated and frustrated with his lot. Hello and welcome to the channel. I am of course the Knight of History, and this is part number 3 of the Henry VIII story. A story about a man who literally changed the way that England did things, and he did as he pleased. Today we are going to talk about Henry's great matter, as he needed an heir to the throne. Then just very quickly, perhaps if you are feeling charitable, please go find the link down below to donate to a charity called Mercy Ships, Hospitals on Ships, helping people who have absolutely nothing. I even ran the Milan Marathon to try and attempt to fundraise for them. If you have donated already, thank you so much. If you haven't, please go find the link down below. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's actually get into this. With Henry's frustrations on the battlefield ever increasing, his frustrations off of the battlefield were becoming even more serious. His wife, the Queen of England, Catherine of Aragon, was now 40 years old, and she had only given him one child who survived infancy, their daughter, Mary. The biological clock was really ticking. Henry desperately needed a male heir so that he may continue his royal line of Tudor, the Tudor dynasty. But by 1525, Catherine was unlikely to provide him with an heir, a son. Now Henry, like many monarchs and aristocrats of the age, looked for love outside of his political but official marriage, and he had a number of different mistresses. He had fallen in love with a much younger, prettier woman called Anne Boleyn, who was actually a lady-in-waiting to the Queen Catherine. Anne Boleyn was highly intelligent, educated, ambitious, and the envy of the court. She would go tease Henry with her wit, and eventually Henry was desperate to have Anne, not as his mistress, but as his wife. However, in order to marry Anne, Henry first needed to divorce Catherine. However, this needed to be approved by the Catholic Church in Rome, Pope Clement. But Catherine's uncle, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, had actually recently just captured Rome, taking the Pope as a prisoner in a gilded cage. Charles V ordered the Pope to decline Henry's request for a divorce. Henry would have to find another way. Henry was absolutely determined to gain his divorce, calling it his great matter. He claimed that he had solid religious grounds to do so as well. According to the book of Leviticus, if a man marries a brother's widow, the couple will remain childless. Of course, Henry did marry his brother's widow, Catherine, but they did have a daughter. However, he needed and wanted a son. He used this passage to argue that his marriage to Catherine had therefore never been lawful in the first place, and God had cursed him by not providing him with a son. In 1527, Henry asked Pope Clement to annul his marriage again and again, but still the Pope refused. He asked his Lord Chancellor, Thomas Wolsey, the powerful cardinal, to persuade the Pope to change his mind, but the Pope insisted that the marriage was religiously and legally binding. Henry was of course furious. Wolsey rapidly fell out of favour. Trying to get the favour back from the king, Wolsey gave him his magnificent Hampton Court palace as a gift, but not even this was enough. By 1529, Wolsey was stripped of his Lord Chancery position, like the Prime Minister, and forced to flee to York in the north of the country. The next year, in 1530, he was ordered to stand trial on trumped-up charges of treason, But during his journey back from York, the once powerful and, let's be honest, arrogant Wolsey died a broken man, with his last words being, "Had I but served my God with half zeal as I have served my king, he would not in my age have left me naked to my enemies," meaning he gave absolutely everything to serve his king. For 6 long years, Henry tried and failed to gain his divorce, but one day he came up with a new idea. Anne Boleyn would read Martin Luther's books. She and many others came up with a suggestion for the king. If England was no longer a Catholic country, Henry would not need the Pope's approval to divorce his wife. But Henry grew up Catholic. He did not like Protestant ideas. Back in 1521, he actually wrote a book entitled The Defenses of the Seven Sacraments, which attacked Luther's ideas and defended the Pope. Henry had made it illegal to own Luther's books, burning suspect Protestants at the stake for being heretics, all of which earned him the title of the Defender of the Faith by Pope Leo X. But Anne Boleyn had such a strong hold over the king's affections that many myths grew around her. Some people claimed that she had 6 fingers, others claimed that she was a witch who had put a love spell on their king. Henry was desperate for a divorce and desperate to marry Anne. He was furious with the Pope, and he began to see some benefits in the Protestant ideas. He also, and maybe more importantly, realized that if he had become the head of a new organization, he wouldn't have to bend to the whims of a pope, but he could lead it as he sees fit. He could become the head of a church, the Church of England. In January 1533, Henry married Anne Boleyn in secret. The marriage was declared valid by Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the very highest member of clergy within England. The very moment that Henry VIII married Anne Boleyn, he was excommunicated from the church, meaning that he is no longer recognized as a Catholic by the Pope. By November 1534, Parliament passed the Act of Supremacy, one of the most important laws in English history. It determined and confirmed that England had broke away from Rome and the Pope, and they created the new Church of England. From here on out, England was no longer part of the Roman Catholic Church. Henry was the supreme head of the Church of England, an act that would change the way that people prayed, change the way that they lived their spiritual lives, and who held the religious power over a spiritual nation. Find out all about the English Reformation next time. I really hope that you enjoyed that. Please don't forget to donate if you can to Mercy Ships, a charity. Find the link down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. The more you know.